Howdy folks, Glenn and Slim with the Cactus Atlas, about to take you on an adventure through southern Arizona. I've just entered Patagonia, Arizona, probably best known for Patagonia Lake, which we visited several years ago and did an episode where we rented a boat and sought out some of their boat-in campsites. That's going way back into the Cactus Atlas catalog, and now I'm back all these years later, mainly at our staging point for an off-road adventure today. All right, Slim, I know some of these episodes we're not letting you talk, but want to say how much we appreciate you as always, and I'm looking forward to this adventure and heading up and over the mountains. You ready, buddy?
You bet, partner.
That looks like a yes. You're dirty, though. All right, I'm recording both the top and this one, and we are ready to get to our actual starting spot, the beginning of the Onyx route, basically, which, like I said, it should be back there. And let's back on up and we'll get to where we need to go. Looking forward to this one, actually. There's some cool things that I found out that ways, and as we make our way, I'll explain in more detail what we're doing today. How about that? The old Wagon Wheel Saloon. Original bar established in 1937. So there's some history here too. So far, yeah, this is kind of a nice little drive. A lot of trees, a lot of different scenery than what Phoenician like me is used to. And that's why I like coming down here to southern Arizona, very near the Mexican border, by the way. We're not far from Nogales, a border town, and then Patagonia you saw. So a lot of my trip here has just been miles away from the Mexican border. I think we're a little further north here, but not too much in the southern climes. So what are we doing then? And the answer to that is we're going to be taking a route named Bull Springs Road, another Onyx user, a road that's rated a 4 out of 10. The review goes something like, oh, it's most experienced off-roaders will find this very easy, but because of the couple rough spots, we might encounter 4 out of 10. So far, it's a 1 out of 10, in my opinion, but we have a long way to go. So I think I get what the user is saying. It's like, hey, it's probably pretty easy, but maybe not for everybody. But so far, yeah, it's just been driving through here and making my way, hopefully, to some mountain views. And if you've been watching the Cactus Atlas long enough, you'd probably know that we like to incorporate historic points of interest along the way, and there you would be correct if you assume there's at least one that I know of that is an old ghost town, an old mining town. Well, there's actually 2 ghost towns back here, one of which is supposedly amazingly well preserved, but it's on a private ranch, and they do not want the public on it. I read online for fear of vandalism. So what I want to do is I'll tell you what I know about it. When we get close to it, I have waypoints on my map. So that one is named Salero, and the other one is named Alto, is the second ghost town. That one we definitely will be able to stop and see, although there's really only one building left back there. What interests me so much, though, about these locations, the more I study, is this is the land of the Spanish. The Spanish explorers coming out here as late as the late 1600s and into the 1700s. And I just came from an old historic Spanish mission from back in the 1700s, the Tumacacari, which is west of here, not by far. And it's this region, the west side of the Santa Rita, is where the Spanish, just like later European pioneers from the East Coast, came out and mined the area. And Salero is one of those old Spanish mines that later became mined by, when you think of the old West and like the white folks that came from the East, basically. And as we learned at Tumacacari, the Spanish strategy back then was about building missions to spread the culture and religion of the Spanish, as well as ranches and other operations like mining, which we're talking about on this episode. So some of these ranches, I think, are the actual ranches of the Spanish that are left over, like the Salero ranch, and now it's been owned by families for a very long time now, and it's private. And then the other ghost town we're seeking out, Alto, is another little spot on my map. This road goes right through the old town site, as well as passes by, I think, what was the old post office, maybe a hotel. Only one building remains, but I created a waypoint for where I think I could set up a photo to compare to old photos to show you where the town was, maybe a before and after, as well as the remains of the structure that I know is out there. And then from there, it's just enjoy the drive and the views. Not bothering with the four-wheel drive either, just FYI, if I need to, or if I feel I'm slipping a lot, I'll put it on. Aha, primitive road. Now, maybe this is where it's gonna start getting worse. The surface is not regularly maintained, and you got a ranch over there. So we're probably getting to the more fun spots. Look at all those ocotillo up there. That's like it's one of the thickest spots I've seen. I heard that's indicative of there might be caves around here. Something around the soils, around caves and something. When you go to Karchner Caverns, they talk about that. Look at how many ocotillo there are, though. That's uncanny. I wonder if they're, and down the hill too. I wonder if there's a cave somewhere out yonder here. In a land that was untamed just a few hundred years ago when the Spanish first Europeans to come out in this area and discover all of the resources and beauty and harshness of our deserts here in Arizona. And today, all that you got left are the cows. Okay, back up the road we go. Bye-bye, cows. More, look at those ocotillo. I always say ocotillo, it's a bad habit. People really get upset when you mispronounce things. Don't blame me though. I usually get my pronunciations from our local news channel. And I tend to try to pronounce things like I hear them say it there. You know, the regional pronunciation of something, even if I don't agree with it. You know, like the town of Casa Grande. I think Arizonans call it Casa Grande. You know, that's a good example. And look at this view. Oh, wow. So I'm wondering if when we're in the heart of the Santa Ritas or not. I'm guessing we're starting to get there. Look at how beautiful that is. We're going to continue, but with the sun shining on those peaks over there. Wow. So I just crossed through a gate there, and there's a sign that basically indicates that this is a public road that is on private land that offers access to forest areas, the Coronado National Forest. So it's one of those private landowners where I don't think they have to do it, but they allow the public to travel through. You'll see a lot of private roads that crisscross. It says this is the property of the Salero Ranch, so I don't think it's the Salero Ranch proper. Maybe it is, I don't know. But that thing with Spanish history is out here to the right somewhere. And that just makes me wonder. It says that the police, the Santa Cruz Police Department, patrols back here looking for people jumping over fences and trespassing. I am not going to do that. However, launching my drone, I don't view that as the same thing, because the landowners don't own the airspace over their ranch, right? So, but I don't know the law here with launching from this public road, I guess you could call it. I don't know who's paying for this road is the thing. If it's taxpayer paid, then I'm gonna do whatever the heck I want. But if it's not, you know, it's those little details I'm not sure about. Peering out my window, the Salero Ranch is still up the road a ways. We'll start seeing roads, which would be to the private property. What I wanted to do is just see if I could find a place to pull over here on the side of the road and just very briefly get the drone up, get some aerial photography, and be on my way. I think I can. I mean, this road is wide as all heck. I mean, you can get, I'm sure they get semis down here for cattle and stuff, so I'm not worried about blocking the road. It's just I don't want to be a nuisance. I don't want to be a pain in the butt, but look at those views. I mean, I just want to get a quick survey. You could look at satellite photos and see the buildings for the old property. There's a gate right there to a private property, probably part of that ranch. But just think though, I mean, right out here, the Spanish were exploring hundreds of years ago. The first Europeans to set foot in this area is complete unknown. Probably right on the ground we're driving over now. All these years later in a fossil fueled metal transport, not a horse. I ain't no caballero. Yeah, so the ranch is right there, and I'm just thinking to myself, what would I do if I owned the ranch? And there's that kind of history on there, and what's supposed to be a very well preserved ghost town, or a few buildings anyway. I imagine it probably looks like Ruby, Arizona, is if I had to guess. Adobe structures with corrugated metal roofs, the thing you've come to expect out of this region in that time frame. But it's just really fascinating though, and the fact that it's off limits makes it more enticing. I see it. I saw some buildings that meet the bill, and they're right over there. You can actually see them from here, but I think we could get the drone up and even flying like right over the road here, and not, you know, like I said, it's not so much of a worry about being airborne and going over there. It's just I don't want to bother people, you know, or stir up bad feelings or the pot. But I'm going to just go for it though, in the name of history. And if you're one of the families that, or if you are the family that owns this and you're amenable to having someone like me that really has a passion for this stuff come out here, and you see this video or you know the people, please like hit us up. We have an email address, thecactusatlas@gmail.com. It's what I do. I just like to document these things for future posterity, because as we all know, they don't last forever. So this is the public road, and there's the fence they talk about. Don't jump the fence. There's a modern home up there somewhere. But the buildings that I saw, if we come up this hill a little ways, I think are gonna be, I see one structure that fits the bill exactly where I pinned it. There's several right over there. The remains of a historic ghost town. The houses are much closer than I thought they would be, and I have a very good line of sight. Can't say that everything always goes according to plan on this channel. That's a fact. But that was a successful drone operation if I ever saw one. So all done quite easily. I could maintain visual observation with the drone. I didn't get it too low to the structures because I didn't want to lose a signal or having any kind of problems or hit anything. Didn't want to even chance it because I can't go out on the private property technically to go retrieve it if I crash or something. So a little careful. I also, when I do those things, there's a street called Ghost Town Trail. I bet you that's the one that goes right out there. But anyway, amazing sight. I mean, there are buildings there very reminiscent of what we saw in Ruby, just like I thought there would be. They look like they were adobe walls with those corrugated metal roofs, and there were 3 main ones that I saw, but as I was scanning up in the hills, I saw more structures up there. So way more than we're gonna see at our next stop, where we're actually gonna get out and walk around on foot legally, since we'll be back on public lands soon enough. If I read though right, Salero got its name from the Spanish at Tumacacori, because once again it was if that's the word that means salt cellar, it's because they mined the silver that they used in the salt cellar, I think to line the walls or something, right back there. And then later, when you're more, I guess the folks from the east, the pioneers kind of started coming in the 1800s, they built on top of the workings of the Spanish. So if we went there today and we looked at the mine, I don't think you'd find like Spanish artifacts there from that era. Probably highly unlikely. But it probably looks more like our Old West mines that we study on our channel more. But it's just fascinating to think though, like that you got history going back further than like the 1880s for once in Arizona, excluding the native history, of course. And I'll give you a quick trail report too. I mean, other than that road up to the Mohawk mine that we started to take earlier, if Amy decided to show that. If not, there was a mining road I explored and it was very deteriorated and turned around. This road has been, I'm hesitant to say bring your Volkswagen Golf or Honda Civic or something on this road, but technically could you? I think you could. It's just be prepared to deal with the remoteness and be equipped to deal with problems if you have any. We'll wait to see if that still holds true up the way, but I've seen lots of signs that said, warning, primitive road. This ain't no primitive road. Somebody's paying money to keep this thing in good shape. So I set a waypoint for this approximate location, and I found an old picture. I'm gonna stand here, and I think we were looking at these 3 little peaks or points to kind of serve as reference points for how the town was really built high up into the hill. The name Alto means high in Spanish, meaning high up in terms of elevation. So I think this is my approximate view, but I wasn't predicting this road to be closed off. I thought we're not actually quite on public land yet, and I think it's still part of the Salero family ranch. Man, these people are hardcore about keeping people out. Not to worry though, because not all of this former town site is on private land. Right up the road is the only structure that I know about that gives us a reminder that there was something going on here, a full operation right here in front of us. Kind of cool to see this now in person and match up the topography with what I think I saw in the image. So what's interesting to me about Alto is I think the story is very similar as it is for Salero and the ghost town there, and that the Spanish were here first. They're the ones that named it Alto. And then later people came in and built on top of what the Spanish started. But yeah, they were mining things like silver out of here for use in the missions like Tumacacri, and this is where they were. Tumacacri, by the way, isn't that terribly far as the crow flies, miles away, but we're on the western slopes of the Santa Rita Mountains, and that's going to be out that way towards the interstate, you know, kind of from the regions we came from. So the Spanish would have, you know, after they got settled there, they would have explored and probably talk to the natives about where they get some of their stuff, their pigments, and who knows, just if we could have been here to see it all. For as much time as the Spanish had a presence in this region and they mined here, you know, if you owned this private land like a ranch, I mean, I imagine sometimes somewhere out here covered up with all this grass and rocks and dirt, there's gotta be more artifacts from that time frame. I've read about archaeologists out in this region, probably on people's private lands, getting permission to excavate and dig. They're still finding stuff from that time. And just imagine if you had some kind of super X-ray vision thing where you could like highlight all of the artifacts, whether it's a nail or a coin or something like that. Just what treasures are spread all throughout these lands here. All right, that's the Alto town site. I was gonna get the drone out and fly it up to check that out, but time is not on my side at this point. I gotta keep going because we're not done yet. We still have more to do. But the main goal there was to just kind of get up next to it and do a before and after. Show you the old town site, that topography, and then today's view. And hopefully later when we edit, we can make it somewhat match so you can see the similarities. But yeah, right back there, Alto. Proof that there is a lot of activity back here. Right up here where that gate is also, I think is the barrier, the national forest. So we're no longer gonna be on the private land from here on out. It's all public lands. Maybe we cross through a few private parcels here and there, but for the most part, no more annoying gates. And if we're gonna find any kind of a rough road or rough conditions, it's going to be in the national forest. It's like it went from being really well maintained on that stretch of private land to being pretty good still, but definitely one of the rockier sections we have been on today. This is probably the line that coming into the national forest this way. I'd say this is where you're going to get your 4 out of 10. I turned off the 4-wheel drive also, like right before I crossed the gate, like a second before I did, saying, I don't really need 4-wheel drive on this road, and going kind of fast, and it was just smooth, but the second I did, it turned into this, so I need to put it back on, because you could probably hear my wheels are slipping a little bit. So that might be a good way to demonstrate it. Do I need 4-wheel drive, Glenn? Probably not, but you're going to be a lot happier for it when you need it or when you want it. At least for most of the stuff we do, because I use the word off-roading, but yeah, it's more like off pavement, just dirt roading. Dirt roading, there you go. That's what we'll call it from now on. So right around the corner from the main mining site and processing mill and all that of Alto, which would have been on the other side of that, kind of winded around the mountain a little bit, wound around. You get views that are something you'd see in heaven, first of all. And then you'll see what remains. I think the only remains that I know about, or one of 2 things maybe that I know about concerning this town called Alto. Before you get too excited, no, these are not Spanish ruins. These are probably from the 20th century, and gosh, I did all of my reading, and now I don't have information on me. I forgot to print it out or download it to my phone, but look-wise, this is exactly how it was described. I want to say this was a post office slash hotel. That's my remembrance. But Amy, you can put the date, maybe some information up on the screen here, since I've been putting way too much in my head these last couple days and devoted too much, I think, to the Spanish history that I've been kind of fascinated with. Well, let's enter this. I don't know if I found any old pictures of this. For some reason, now I'm drawing a complete blank on this. I had facts, I had names, I had everything. But rather than just botch it, I'm gonna let Amy, like I said, she'll put stuff up on the screen. This is fantastic though, isn't it? This got my attention here. I don't know what that says. It looks like it says geek. Why? I don't know if, or maybe it's the marking of whoever built that, and they scraped their name in there, and it's not. It's just hard to see what it says, but maybe it comes out better on camera. But just look how thick though these walls are. That's why they're still standing, I take it. Usually they're a quarter of that width. It's one of those moments too where it's just so quiet. The hills surrounding here, there's just nobody for miles that I can detect. And I'm here in this place that was much more hustling and bustling back in the day. And walking on the same ground that people would have walked in doing their Monday day-to-day activities, and just talking about the politics of the time and their concerns of the time, which I'm sure were vastly different yet the same as what we had, today. But there were probably a lot more DIY kind of skills you need to survive back then and build places like this. One thing I notice about this particular blend of adobe is a lot more like rock. It's like it looks more like a concrete conglomeration, just bigger chunks in it, like this stuff here. I know if I just were to even, use my finger and give it the slightest bit of force, I could pluck away at this wall. I could probably take this whole thing down in a week. And I would never do that or encourage anybody to do that. I'm just trying to say it's amazing how, these things deteriorate even in less than 100 years. Alto, alto, alto. I'm looking for other things, but when you research online, this is the only thing that I see consistently is this. Although I think I may have found a graveyard or a cemetery. I should say there's no church, but we'll come take a look at this view first because it's beautiful. And I see another waypoint that I have just for knowledge's sake, so I know I'm going in the right direction. Up on that dark mountaintop up there is an observatory. I think that's Whipple Observatory. I think you can visit it, actually. There's a road that goes up to it, which we will not be taking, but I'm assuming we're cutting through the middle somewhere, and we are heading close to that, so you can kind of get a look at the terrain. I'm gonna guess we're gonna climb once again. And being that this is forest land, I assume you can disperse camp here, and this would be a fantastic camping site, actually. This would be a good tent site because, people can't really drive. I guess you could drive back here, but you'd be risking taking that wall down if you're in a big rig. But I would love to tent camp back here. One thing they had up high here, no pun intended, alto, get it, are the views, I could toil out here for those views and the weather. Does look at one time they had water here. I don't know if that was a later addition or from the time. I'm breaking my policy of picking things up because I found a nail right in front of the wheels here. And I don't want to drive over a nail. And it looks kind of like this, but it feels weird. It's very, I don't know. Is that one of those carrot nails? It could not be, could it? It just doesn't look like, it looks handmade. And it feels light. It doesn't feel like a modern nail. Something just strikes me as different. My spidey senses are tingling for some reason. It doesn't feel normal. It just doesn't. And I didn't really read to see how big the Spanish style nails are, but the head, I thought they would be bigger than that, but the head looks kind of like that. Dude, there's something about this. There really is. I don't like removing things from their original placements, but I'm deeming this a hazard to modern vehicles, and one more look before I remove this and put it somewhere else. I'm gonna just chalk this one up to being unknown and likely not what I hope it is. It just would be really cool to hold nails that some of the first explorers, the European explorers of this region made as they were probably building infrastructure to support their mining efforts out here. But because this is so close to this site, I'm gonna guess that if they are made by hand, maybe, I don't know, could be 1800s at the least. So I'm gonna discard these in some places where I don't think others are gonna pocket them and not puncture any tires, and we gotta get going because we're running out of time here. All right, Alto, another one off the list. The only thing that I marked on my map is the potential for an old cemetery somewhere, I think right in this vicinity. I don't see anything yet. I'm gonna have to get my offline maps, and I'm gonna get some aerial shots before I leave of this, and then we're gonna head up this very bumpy looking road. You can see this is where the fun begins for the off pavement stuff, and where I might caution people to think about what type of vehicle you take up here at this point. So that was really cool. Those nails, I put them somewhere where I think if someone were nosing about, they could find them, but I didn't want to put them like right out in the open. I would guess most people would just walk right on by them. I searched more of that area, just mainly to uncover hazards, and I found some other nails that looked more modern. They looked machined, I guess is the way I would put it, as opposed to handmade. Is that a good way to think about that? And the more modern ones I found, the bigger ones, are just more solid and beefy. They have more weight to them than the little ones that I found that were they just looked like they were hammered by hand or something. I could be totally wrong. It could just be normal weathering and erosion. But please comment down below if you have knowledge of these things, especially if that's Spanish history, especially if it's important history. It might be reasonable to think, that when the pioneers came out here from the east, after the time of the Spanish, you do read of accounts of people repurposing old structures of the ancients, sheep farmers, sheep herders, and people like that rearranging old stone structures to build corrals and things. There's a long history of that out here. So maybe there was an area that was kind of cleared out, or who knows, where later people came out here and built on top of where the Spanish built, because it was already, maybe the land was partially cleared and it just made it easier, so it wouldn't be uncommon to find a mixture of things from other times. And boy, can you tell I just, something in me wants it to be so true, that I found something cool like that. But the realist in me says it's almost certainly nothing. In fact, it's probably just a regular old nail that's been run over so many times that it just bent into those weird shapes like that and just is rotting away. So here's what I'm gonna do. I really need to focus on driving because I have to get to my next location for the night. Anyway, I need to make time is the whole point of why I'm babbling on. So I'm gonna just roll the camera up on the roof and catch some of the road footage here in this late afternoon light, and we'll enjoy some of the road together while I focus on driving and not so much talking. Look at that freaking view. I was gonna stop and get that view for you earlier, but why do I need to now? That's looking back the way we came approximately. Off to the left that you can't see would be where Alto was, but I see dirt roads out there and I'm wondering, is that one of the ones that we took? I've kind of lost track now. So I would say, you know, some of these sections you come up on them and you're just like, whoa, really? And then the bark is worse than the bite, I would say, but you know, this is one of those things where you'd probably want the all-terrain tires on. Once you get past the Alto area, once you cross back into the Coronado National Forest, there's a good way to put it. That's when all your troubles start with the road, because I don't think these forest roads get as much maintenance as some of those ranching roads and things do. But it is heaven back here. I mean, this is Arizona, if you can believe that. I would also recommend Onyx Off-Road or something of that nature to get through here safely and do what I always do. If you've seen some of our other trail guide videos, the more technical explanations of these trails, I do show you how I plan and study maps in advance and really understand all of the particulars before I go somewhere. Dude, this is fun. This road is amazing so far. I'm gonna wait till I'm done with it in case it claims me first, and I'm gonna say something bad about it later. But I really am enjoying this, even despite the slow-going nature. I was really expecting to be at my destination a lot earlier than I'm gonna get there now. We're crawling a lot of the time, 4 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour. It looks crazy, but it's not that bad at the same time. That's like the theme, I guess. It just looks like it's gonna be nasty, but somehow it's not as bad as other ones that I've done. Maybe I'm just getting so used to this that it's becoming easier and nothing feels that bad anymore. Almost like we're right on the edge of the earth up here, isn't it? Whoa, look at that. I just put it back in two-wheel drive at this point so I don't accidentally forget or something. I haven't done that yet. I'm always paranoid before I hit pavement, and the road conditions have gotten greatly improved since we came down out of the mountains. That was primo. I figured this isn't the most interesting part to film anyway, so and the GoPro up on top is starting to run short on battery. So what I think I'm gonna do is make a beeline for the road. We still have a little bit of route to go, probably a few more miles of this, which isn't, you know, anything to sneeze at. It's really pretty, but with the sun coming down and everything, not the best for filming. So I think I'm gonna turn the cameras off and we'll catch up when we get down towards the end of the trail here. Looking at my map, I'm coming up on what I'm wondering if it's pavement or a better maintained road, something called Mount Hopkins Road, which should be the end of the official Onyx route that I'm following for this, as well as what I had planned. I think we're gonna turn around and salute the mountains, and then I'm gonna head to my next location and start my next video. Woo! I work hard sometimes. Sometimes. All right, where are you, Mount Hopkins Road? I think we're already in two-wheel drive, as I did back there. And I think I see it. Is this the end? Is there pavement here? Is there pavement here, or a better maintained road? It's pavement, I think. It is pavement. I see paint and everything. Sweet. Let me get out and we'll salute what we did. That was awesome. That was one of the best. And that, my friends, is how you do an off-pavement drive. We came somewhere from well on the other side of those, and you saw what we did. We came out from the sky. I think that's Whipple Observatory up there. You saw it from a different angle. It's really on a very steep peak, and there's a road that goes up to that, maybe for another time. For now, I need to start thinking about the next thing. Well, folks, a little teaser. My next adventure is right on the other side of the Santa Rita, is on the northeastern corner, a place called Kentucky Camp, an old mining operation where I'm spending the night inside one of the structures there. It's gonna be awesome, I hope. But that's where we're heading next. You're gonna have to wait till next video to see that one. And thanks for joining me on this, and hopefully I sold you on coming back for more. If I did, I'll see you next time. Bye.